first exercise for this lesson, we're going to revisit the technique we learned in lesson 2.13 in the abdominal control exercise. Remember how we used the S sound, S sound, during that exercise, and by engaging our abdominal muscles, we were able to increase and decrease the volume of the sound we're making. So what was actually happening during that exercise was that we were increasing and decreasing the amount of breath pressure that was being built up behind our vocal cords. In singing, the more breath pressure that builds up behind the vocal cords, the louder the sound will be. The lower the breath pressure, the quieter the sound will be. Now that you've worked through more of the program and have a better understanding on sound production, chord closure and resonance, we're going to do that exercise again. However, this time we're going to try something a little different. We're going to sing the notes in this exercise staccato, or short and detached. Okay? This will help you with the beginning of your phrases by teaching you the specific level of abdominal engagement and breath pressure you need to use to achieve different volumes as you begin singing a phrase. However, before we go into that exercise, I want to briefly teach you about onset. All right? The term onset basically refers to the commencement of sound, or the point at which the breath meets the vocal cords and the sound begins to come out of your body. Often when we're singing staccato, it's much easier to use the throat muscles to make the sound short and detached, like this. All coming from my throat, okay? Notice how there's a popping sound as the sound begins, as the tone begins. I'll do it again. Listen. Okay? This is what is known as glottal stopping. And glottal stopping is where the cords begin vibrating before the breath arrives, giving a hard vocal attack. And this is a natural technique that we all use in everyday speech. In fact, it's a wonderful technique that can also add color, character, vitality, and style to the song you're singing. However, the problem with using a glottal stop when it comes to dynamics and breath control is that instead of gauging your abdominal muscles, you're using your throat muscles, which can lead to the sound getting stuck in your throat. And as we know, this not only reduces the amount of resonance you'll achieve, but it also leads to tension, strain, and a forcing of the sound. So instead of using a glottal stop or a glottal onset, make sure you keep your throat open and that the sound begins more gently, like this. Instead of okay? So this is what's called a simultaneous onset, where the breath and the vibration of the cords occur at the same time, giving a more balanced, resonant tone. And just for education purposes, there is another form of onset that can also be used to add color and interest to the beginning of a word or phrase, and that is the aspirate onset. This is where the breath passes through the vocal folds before they begin to vibrate, giving a breathy sound like this. Ha, 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 ha. Listen carefully. Ha. Notice how that breath came first and then the sound? That's an aspirate onset. However, we'll work on that a little later in the performance lesson. For now, let's go into the first exercise for this lesson and practice our simultaneous onset.